state for a long time, these things can run and become, make us ill, make us unwell. In fact, there's about 360 plus documented symptoms of stress. And indeed, stress makes pain worse, the fear of pain, the fear of hurting ourselves, the adjustments that we make to accommodate pain. But some of the symptoms like IBS, there's a whole department at one of the big hospitals in the Northwest that deal with hypnotherapy treating IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. So, a lot of physical manifestations. We talk about things like it's doing my head in, I'm sick to the stomach, I can't cope, I'm choked, I'm heartbroken. All these things are taking stressful, distressing situations and holding them in our bodies, called somatizing them. So dealing with it is first of all about accepting what's going on with us. What is my story? What is it that's bothering me? If I stop and breathe and assess why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling and break it down into bite-sized chunks, can I manage it better? Can I deal with it? Or is it simply that my mind is running ahead and creating all sorts of narratives that are not helpful in many, many ways? And that is a huge part of helping ourselves to manage and deal with stress better.
And also we've got responsibility too.
That's the truth, yes. We have to own it, I guess. What is my part in this situation? If it's an argument, if it's a row, what is it that I have done? What can I learn from this? How could I have handled it differently? Have I taken things personally? Do I know the full story? Am I being empathic? Am I trying to appreciate their point of view? All these are ways that we can own our own responses and help us deal better. And also, to some extent, put a sort of ribbon round it and block it off and hold it. Some people say they leave their work at home. They walk out the door at 5 o'clock and that's it for the day. Other people are taking it home and churning it over in their heads. And owning our part is about learning to find ways to switch off and give ourselves a breather, a break, a time out from being stressed out. And that is a big help to help us manage stress better.
You even say in your writing on your website, it says here, stress is good for you. Is it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if we're constantly living in a lovely environment and everything's wonderful and nothing ever goes wrong and we're never challenged and we don't have to think about things, then I always say our comfort zone, if we spend a long time in our comfort zone, it gets smaller and smaller. It ends up shrinking. And indeed, some stress is important. Coming on here, having a chat with you, I always prepare for it. I always think in advance. I'm conscious of the time. I make sure I'm here on time. I'm sure you do similar things. So that in itself is a little amount of stress. I've got an interview radio into tomorrow morning at 11:30. And whilst I know what I'm doing, a certain amount of that is stressful. So it's what keeps us on our toes. It helps us problem solve. It helps us think outside the box. It helps us stretch ourselves. And there's a great feeling of satisfaction when you have done something perhaps outside of the norm, a little bit out of your normal routine or whatever, and succeeded. Or even if you failed and not done as well as you hoped, that in itself is stressful. But you can think to yourself, I had a go. Well done. I tried my best. I've learned something from it. I've made some new contacts. All these are important ways to keep ourselves thriving in a way and healthy and as I say, thinking outside of the box.
Sorry. What can people do if they can't sleep? Sometimes it's dreadful. They're coming from work, then they go to bed, and they've got the days, problems on them. How can they cope?
I think that can be some people that can be important lesson to learn, an important discipline to bring into our lives. And some people think about using their journey home as a way to de-stress, even if they're driving, even if they end up stuck in traffic. They can say, okay, this is my big thick line between work and home. I've got to let it go. So that can be one way, using your journey home to switch off and have the right mindset, where if you're stuck in the car, you're playing the radio, you're listening to your favourite tunes, you're singing along, you may be listening to a podcast if you're stuck in traffic or whatever, doing things like that. Some people might go for a gym session, a swim or something after work if they've got the time or the opportunity. For other people, it might be good to go home, put a meal in the oven or in the slow cooker, and maybe go for a bit of a walk outside for 20, 30 minutes, half an hour while it's cooking. Or maybe have a shower or a bath, or just to wash away the day's cares, or to change your clothes. So that there can be lots of, or write a list. This is what I've not finished today. This is what I've got to think about tomorrow. Right, it's on my list. I don't need to think about you again. Get out of my head, and start introducing that as a discipline. These are all little ways that we can sort of invest in ourselves and make our evening a time for unwinding, for recharging, a time where we enjoy perhaps talking with friends or family, or doing hobbies, or even just watching TV, but doing things that are of interest to us. And also, don't forget that fabulous saying, nobody on their deathbed ever said, I wish I'd spent longer in the office. I wish I'd spent longer at work. So it is about reminding ourselves that the work that we're doing is often about supporting the rest of our lifestyle. We might find it interesting and challenging, and we should indeed do that, but it is also about finding that balance between work and play, and having hobbies, interests, family time, friend time, break time that is actually good and stimulating and helps us feel good about ourselves.
How can we maintain a good regular routine?
How can we maintain a regular routine?
Yeah.
Well, not everybody can. I mean, some people work shifts, or they are travelling a lot with their job, or they have all sorts of different demands, meetings, early meetings, late meetings. They may have shift work where they're working part day and then come home and then they're back on. Hospitality is notorious for that. So finding ways that we structure it so that we perhaps know what we're doing as best we can, but make sure that if we can't have a routine, we intersperse it with little bite-sized chunks of good things. I work really weird hours, and so often I'll think to myself, right, I haven't got a client now for 3 hours. I'm going to go and have a nice coffee at that cafe that I like. And I might drive over, park my car, maybe take an article that I'm writing in with me, do a little bit of work, but also do a bit of people watching, and have a lovely coffee and maybe a toasted tea cake, and and I'm out the house, I'm away from it. So finding ways that we can intersperse our days with things that give us some sense of satisfaction. And indeed, I mean, really, we are supposed to support our stress levels by taking breaks, if we can, every hour and a half or so. Normally we should be working for about an hour and a half and then just going for a water cooler break, or a quick walk around the car park, or just detach ourselves from what we're doing, because it's a fact that when we come back to work after a short break, a 5, 10 minute, 15-minute break, we actually perform better. Our thinking's improved. So those little routines that we can have can be adapted even if we don't have a routine structure to our job that we can actually identify as a template that operates every day of the week.
And also it's like technology, isn't it?
I think that's an important thing, that often people have a couple of phones. They might have one that's a personal phone. They might have a work phone. A lot of people do these days. Finding ways to come home in an evening and have a time where you say to yourself, right, unless it's an emergency situation that I am concerned about, unless that's, that's a rarity, I'm going to switch off my tech at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever it might be, so that you are not constantly just thinking, I'll just check it one more time, I'll just have a look at my emails, I'll just check my social media. And I have loads of clients who complain that their partners spend nearly all evening on the phones, doing 2 or 3 things at once. They're sat with them on the couch, they're having a drink, maybe they're watching a TV program, and they're on the tech at the same time. So put some of that away and give yourself a break, because you're being your mind's being stimulated all the time. And have your phone. I mean, I leave my phone on the landing when I go to bed at night, so it's charging, but it's not in my room. So and I may hear it ping or whatever as I get an update or something in the night, but I don't need to go and look at it, because whatever it is, it will last until the morning when I get up and check it then if needs be.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
When you kind of like do your sort of work, do you ever get stressed out with what's going on? About with you at the end of the day?
Well, I don't get stressed with what I'm hearing with my clients, because I know that when I'm working with them, I'm doing the very best I can, and I'm dedicated and devoted to listening to them, to hearing what they need, to devising a work plan of what we're going to do that evening or that time at that session as we're doing it. So when I'm working with my clients, I don't get stressed about them or think about them afterwards, because I commit 110% to being, to doing the best session that we possibly can while we're working together. And they always know that if needs be, they can phone me, they can email me, they can get in touch if necessary. And I also have a lot of support stuff that I offer on my website. So that's free to access, my lifestyletherapy.net website. Loads of articles on there and my books and all sorts of things. For myself, I make sure that I have breaks. I make sure that I have a good social life. I make sure I go for an early morning walk. I live right next to the canal, so I walk along the towpath every morning and enjoy the sunrises, or, chats with people that I see on an intermittent basis, or watching the ducks and so on. So I manage my own life too. And yeah, there may be times when I'm feeling a bit stressed about something, but I identify what the issue is, rather than just having my mind run like crazy thinking, oh my goodness, what if, and just sort of map it out that way and try and manage to find good ways to taking care of myself, of ourselves as we're living each day, making sure sleep's important, make sure breaks are important, make sure your nutrition is important, your hydration, that your fun is important. All those things can help you manage stress, particularly if you're going through a stressful time.
Yeah, and also really be kind to yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is about sometimes saying, one of the questions I'll ask my clients is, who's the most important person in your life? Now, people with young children will often say, quite rightly, my children, because they need me, they can't manage without me. And I understand that, but also it's so very tempting that a lot of people will say, oh, my partner or my elderly parents or my older children or my boss at work or whatever. And these things are all important. But the truth is that you've got to be the most important person in your life. If you're not, who is going to take care of you? How are you going to be able to take care of those people who matter to you so importantly? So taking care of yourself, having you at the top of that list really is crucial, because then you are in a better position to handle whatever is thrown at you in life. And that's why on an aeroplane you'll often find the cabin crew will say, if there is an emergency and the air thing comes down, put it on your own face first, because then you are in a better position to help others. And that works in every situation in life too.
And if people listen to this, what do you say to people about stress and how to get help?
Well, I'll say that, break down what it is that's bothering you. Maybe try and break it down into bite-sized chunks. So, if you've got a big project or you've got something that seems really impossible, see if there are ways that you can break it down so that you can achieve a bit each day or a bit each time. Is there somebody you can get on board to help you, a mentor, a coach, an advisor, or are there friends or family that you can just share the load with, and they will offer you support and be there to understand and give you a hug, a reassurance whenever need be? So sharing with family and friends, making sure Number 3 is making sure that you have good times away from that stressful situation, whether that's walking on your own, whether it's having some exercise. Adrenaline is a great way of helping alleviate stress. So, going for a football game or a game of tennis or a workout at the gym or a bit of a run can be magnificent ways of helping minimize the stress. Sleep is important too. That getting a good sleep hygiene routine, so going to bed at the same time if you can each evening, maybe having a shower or a bath so that you wash away, as I said before, the day's stresses, but trying to have some sort of routine. Even if your mind is racing, it's still good to sort of relax and enjoy going to bed and just having some me time. Turning off your tech is important. There's lots of different things like this, and there are loads of tips and hints out there on my website, but lots of different places where you can get support to give you ideas and hints to support your own mental health and your own stress levels.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Stress is real. But we always have a choice. We can let it consume us, or we can learn to control it. Good night all. And God bless.